No-fault divorce is just the end of marriage. Marriage does not exist.
That's right.
There's people have mentioned covenant marriage, I think it's called, in like Alabama. I'm not sure what other states have it. And this is them trying to recodify what actual marriage is.
Yeah.
But there is, quite literally, if you enter into a spiritual, moral, and legal contract till death do us part, but the legal has been completely removed and the moral foundations of society have become dissociative or fractured,
Yes.
then you quite literally are just dating.
Right.
We've seen these fling marriages for a year or two. You see all these celebrities, they're married for 5 years and then they're broken up. That's not marriage.
Right.
It is not marriage. And this gives me the opportunity. I really think productive discussions start from what the Greeks used to call stasis, where people agree.
For real.
Because then we can reason out from where we agree and try to achieve clarity where we disagree and maybe even overcome.
With no-fault divorce, the power is in women's hands and they tend to abuse it to get rich quickly and move on with their lives. This is why more men are not getting married. This is why more men don't want to get into committed relationships with women. With circumstances such as these, I don't blame them. I would do the same and stay away from marriage.
There's a big debate as to whether or not no-fault divorces are a good thing in society. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the pros and the cons of a no-fault divorce. Some of the benefits are it does make divorce much easier. Theoretically, that means that people should be able to file their divorce petitions and get divorced and move on with life a lot more quickly. It also reduces some of the conflict. If you don't have to spend a whole bunch of time pointing the finger at the other person for doing something awful, again, that should reduce some of the conflict in the case. It can also make it easier on children because the divorce, again, can theoretically get done a lot sooner. What are some of the negatives? It makes divorce too easy. As a society, we want to encourage people not just getting married, but staying married. We want them to fight for their marriages. That's good for society, that's good for children. But it's definitely an interesting debate, something that we should continue to discuss.
There is absolutely nothing to be gained for men by getting married, yet so much to lose. A man can now have a more honest and stable relationship with a woman who charges by the hour instead of a wife who charges by the lifetime. No-fault divorce incentives divorce. No one should be incentivized to break a contract. No-fault divorce incentives divorce. No one should be incentivized to break a contract.
Well, it certainly didn't take long for bills impacting marriage, divorce, and annulment to start rolling in for the 2025 legislative session. So we have Texas coming in, which we know is, one of the most conservative states. One of their conservative lawmakers filed 2 bills regarding marriage, divorce, and annulment for the 2025 legislative session. This is from Lone Star Live. From that website, and it was published November 14th. So the latest, and I'm going to read it because I don't know all this stuff, but 2 pieces of legislation submitted. One is House Bill 732, which would repeal a section of the Texas Family Code that allows marriages to be annulled on the grounds of impotency. So currently it allows for an annulment specifically if either party was permanently impotent at the time of marriage, the other did not know their spouse was impotent, and they had not voluntarily cohabited since finding out. So if passed, House Bill 732 would apply only to marriage annulment requests filed on or before September 1st of 2025. So that is in process. The other bill in Texas is House Bill 931, which would make Texas one of 4 states that allow covenant marriage, and they have covenant marriage in quotes. That type of arrangement is tied to conservative Christianity and emphasizes marriage being for life, although divorce is still legally available. So some notable political figures that have entered into covenant marriages, we'll see if any of these names sound familiar to you. U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson, and former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee. Advocates say it promotes traditional family values, which again is a phrase that was all over the original full text of the Project 2025 document, all 922 pages, and it encourages couples to solve marital problems.
Today, women go into marriage thinking, hey, if I'm not happy after 3 years, I'm out of here. No-fault gave women a back door. It's not about love and cherishing a relationship and having the patience to see it through. It's about entitled women getting or not getting what they want. No man wants to risk everything on the mindset of an irrational, illogical wife. They have everything to lose. Society has everything to lose. Our social structure has everything to lose.
I went to divorce court today. I was very nervous, but I did well because I didn't have to talk. I only sat there. My attorney spoke for me. My soon-to-be ex-husband didn't look so well. Doesn't look well at all compared to what he normally looks. This court date was not supposed to have happened. Technically, it shouldn't have had to have happened because we should have been able to figure everything out in mediation, which was scheduled for the end of October, of which we had to cancel because he has yet to provide any financial documents. Any. He just simply doesn't provide anything. The judge got after him and told him that he needs to step up and provide financial documents. He tried to claim, well, because I'm not having an attorney, then I just didn't know. You know, he's smart. You also are literally sleeping with an attorney, mister. Come on, we're not that dumb. Unbelievable. He can play dumb all he wants, but we see through him. Note to self, don't mess around with the judicial system.
We can say with certainty that no matter what men and women achieve in this world, the basic and undisturbed laws of human nature remain unchanged. Some things were meant to be, and no matter how much men and women may try, in the end, the truth can only be what nature intends for men and women, their functions and the way they live.
Conservatives have been quietly coming for no-fault divorce.
Well, an interesting thing, too, a recent statistic was, which we can understand now why conservatives are targeting this among many other things, 2/3 of heterosexual divorces are initiated by women now.
Men would rather change the laws than do some goddamn housework every once in a while.
Then be nicer.
Oh my God. I honestly think that conservatives want women to be forced into a life of indentured servitude to men that they cannot escape. Look, here's the thing about marriage. I'm married. I take it very seriously. But I also think that I really am glad that I have the freedom to divorce, and I'm sure you are too. If you think marriage is like, a magic party and you can never break up, then fine, believe in the magic. Why do you need the law to back you up? Why do you need the power of the state to enforce a contract, essentially, that you signed with another person? It doesn't make any sense.
No-fault divorce gives the most power to women without giving them equal accountability, and divorce in general is just devastating for both partners in more ways than one. 2/3 of divorces are initiated by women. This means that the state is giving them the advantage and not vice versa, as these ladies suggest.
No-fault divorce is basically a way of saying, we are no longer trying to put any pressure on you to stay together. You don't even have to give a justification for splitting up. It's a lot easier to get out of a marriage contract than it is to get out of any other contract. That's really bad because of all the things that we were trying to avoid by regulating marriage in the first place.
Right.
This isn't a point that's callous to the difficulties of marriage, by the way. There are lots of studies that suggest that couples who have serious difficulties but decide to stay together 5 years later, in the majority of cases, are very happy.
Right.
So it could be even for the couple's own good. In fact, when I invite people to my wedding, part of what I'm doing is inviting them to put pressure on me to stay together. The idea is the community has an interest in this, it's invested in this, and we, as well as the community, have an interest in the community encouraging us to stay together. We do that partly through culture and partly through law, and no-fault divorce is a direct repudiation of that.
No-fault divorce is a type of divorce where the applicant or applicants don't need to provide reasons to the law for filing for divorce. This means that anyone can file for divorce at any time and not give any reason for doing so, and the state does not legally need any reason from them to pursue the divorce case. Historically, men were the primary wage earners.
What is no-fault divorce? If you're living in a state like New York, which is a no-fault state, what this means is that the lawyers, the judges, the legal system, we simply don't really care about why two people don't want to be together, how they got here, who's a good guy, who's a bad girl, who did what, who slept with whom. None of that really matters to us, because what we're trying to figure out is not who's at fault for getting a divorce, but how do we get the two sides to move forward from this point. We have to deal with the children. If there are children, we have to deal with the assets. We have to deal with financial support per law. So these are things that we're looking at going forward. We're not really looking at going back, and we certainly are not looking at how the two people got to this point. That's why it's called no fault. Because there is no fault. It doesn't matter how you got here. What matters is how do you move forward and make sure that things are done fairly and equitably.
The fact that the government is actually starting to recognize these issues shows how serious this has become. Don't get mad at men or the government. Get mad at women who try to get as much money out of men as possible. It's their fault. Blame the women who get married so their life can be easy, and then file for divorce once they realize they can't fake love anymore. Our government getting involved in the family unit is what has destroyed the family unit. Until we grow some balls and kick out the government, we will continue to have these problems, and it will continue to get worse by the day. It's going to take a few generations just to fix this mess. A lot of the credit goes to the men going their own way movement that allowed men to share their experiences and opened each other's eyes regarding the true nature of women.
As someone who shares about their divorce online, I have thousands and thousands of comments and DMs from men and women who are either getting divorced or are post-divorce. And something that I think is really interesting as a pattern about the difference between men and women post-divorce is that while divorce sucks for everybody, generally, women come out of divorce and their lives are on an upswing. They're more fulfilled, they're happier, they're calmer, their homes are peaceful, they're doing things that are for them versus for someone else. And men, alternatively, go through divorce and have a much harder time. A much harder time finding fulfillment, finding satisfaction. Now, of course, these are like broad generalizations. I know there are many men who go through divorce and are happier post-divorce. But as far as their lives being easier, the trend, again, based on thousands and thousands of comments, DMs, and conversations, is that post-divorce life for women is a whole lot better than post-divorce life for men. And then you start to think, why is that? And while I know why that is for myself, I think the realization is that post-divorce, men realize how much work women were doing for them, how much thought went into making their lives easier. And once women are free from marriage and free from past their divorce, all that energy that they spend putting into supporting their man goes towards supporting themselves and making themselves fulfilled and doing things that make their own lives easier and happier and safer. So while of course there are wonderful men out there and there are men who come out of divorce and they are living that more fulfilled life, it's really, really hard for me to ignore that pattern.
Research has found that more women initiate divorce than men, and up to 70% of no-fault divorces are started by women. In the United States, no-fault divorces are legal in all 50 states, and research estimates put the figure of a woman starting divorce proceedings at 70%, while in the UK, 62% of divorces are started by women.
So before the advent of no-fault divorce, we had situations that we permitted in situations of divorce, and that would be adultery, abuse, addiction, abandonment, right? And if that took place, one spouse was deemed at fault, and then the court and all of society could side with the innocent spouse and reward the innocent and reward the mom or dad that was trying to keep the marriage together, trying to protect the kids, trying to do what was best, right? That is no longer where we are today. Today, we have a no-fault divorce system, and yet the no-fault divorce laws gives the most power to the spouse that is misbehaving the most. And so in a general sense, you can say, well, we don't really want an outside party involved. But as soon as you're seeing it in your life and you are listening to the kid who's saying, you know, every night I go to bed sad and I don't know why, then you're like, get that third party in here and make that person own up to what they committed to, because it is victimizing the innocent.
There's some additional problems with divorce that people don't really grasp when they're young. Like the idea that you can be divorced once you have children, that's kind of a stupid idea, because you can't. You can find a limited substitute for your initial freedom. But if you have kids and you try to get divorced, the probability that that's going to demolish your life is very, very high. First of all, it's incredibly expensive. So one or both of you is going to come out of that poor, and your market value has declined. Let's say you're the woman who takes the kids. Your market value has declined radically. You're going to be poorer. The man, he's just as screwed, because he is now an indentured servant, and there's no escape from it. So it's not so bad if you can negotiate a peaceful separation, and some people can, but lots of times if you have a terrible relationship, it's not like negotiating a peaceful separation is all that easy. But if you're at each other's throats, good luck to you. It is not pleasant.
So that's what divorce used to mean for men. But now, after the feminist no-fault divorce phenomenon, it has changed the game entirely. Now the men of this generation and the next who have been brought up in the era of feminism and who are made to believe that men and women are equal have to then also pay for child support. They have to pay for alimony, fight for their kids, while the society tells everyone that men and women are equal. That doesn't make sense if you think about it. There's nothing in such a situation. Men are avoiding marriage because they know that no matter what happens between them and their wives, the justice system is most likely going to see them as the guilty ones and punish them for it. Men are avoiding marriage because they know they can instead spend more peaceful lives without women. All right, guys, we've come to the end of this video, and if you enjoyed it, do well to click on the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to check other videos on our playlist. We've got some amazing contents for you. See you in our next video.